Does it ruin the ownership experience? Well, no, not really, because when you do that, you can't hear it, can you? Hello guys, and welcome to this volkswizard video. Now, I've been lucky enough to own this 2014 Audi R8 for about 8 months now. I've done about 3,000 brilliant miles in it. You probably recognise it from the Project R8 videos elsewhere on this channel, which I'll put a link to at the end of this video. Today, I thought I'd make a video explain to you what it's been like living with my dream car, because even though it is my dream car, it doesn't mean that it's actually perfect. Yeah, there are loads of things I love about it, but there are actually quite a few things that I don't like, and some things have even gone wrong with it. So, without any further ado, let's get this video going by talking about the things that I like about my Audi R8. Okay, the first thing that I love about my Audi R8 is that it doesn't tend to upset other motorists. You get the odd bit of pointing, and some people even give you a thumbs up, but you don't tend to get the other nasty hand gestures that Ferrari and Lamborghini owners are probably only too familiar with. And I put that down to one thing: the 4 rings on the car's bonnet, because this is not a particularly exotic badge. There are A1s and A3s everywhere with this on the bonnet, and I think that makes this car a lot more relatable to than some more exotic brands, and therefore less likely to be the subjects of people's resentment. Another thing I like about my Audi R8 is that it's not actually that expensive to have it serviced at a main dealer, and there are main dealers everywhere, which you can't say about Ferrari, Lamborghini or even Porsche. They do a fixed price servicing deal on cars over 3 years old. You can have an interim service for £485 or a major one for £895. Sounds like a lot compared to even an RS3, but you've got to bear in mind it's like a Lamborghini based car, and if you compare it to Lamborghini servicing, I think this is a bit of a bargain. This car's going to go into Birmingham Audi between now and the end of autumn for a service. And the beauty of going to a main dealer is that they can check over the body, because it's all aluminium structure and panels, and check it for corrosion. And if there is any, they can then report it, and you can get it done under the 12-year anti-corrosion warranty. So yeah, specialists are brilliant, but I think on this occasion for this car, I really want to take it to Audi and just make sure everything's done by the book. Okay, one of the things I really like about my Audi R8 is that even driving it sedately like I am now in this 30-mile-an-hour zone, it feels special. Now, that's important to me because the reality is that you're not really able to exploit a performance car that much in the UK. I mean, I drive out into the countryside a lot, almost every Sunday, just to enjoy cars, but even then I'm doing that with my wife. So I can drive, you know, hard to a point, but something like, say, the Golf GTI Club Sport S I had before this car, I could get nowhere near its dynamic abilities, even driving on my own on a country road, because it would just be completely irresponsible, and I didn't want to drive it on track. So that car taught me that it was very important to buy a car that felt special, even just pottering around, and this car does that. Okay, it's like 80% TT in here, and sometimes you forget you're driving something that looks so exotic outside because it's so familiar in here, but you still can't get away from the fact you've got this V8 burbling away behind you, which instantly gives it a kind of exotic quality. Okay, another thing I really like about my Audi R8 is that the ride quality is actually very good. You've got to bear in mind we're basically in a supercar body here with an aluminium space frame, exactly the same as that used in the Lamborghini Gallardo. It's very stiff, which means the shock absorbers do pretty much all the work, and this car's perfectly comfortable in most situations. I've got to point out we are running Mag Ride, which was an extra cost option on this car. It does give it a lovely soft edge because it's constantly adapting the dampers. You can make it harder, but honestly it's quite unpleasant, and short of being in Germany or on a track, you really don't want to do that. But I say Mag Ride in its normal mode is adaptive and seems to smooth the ride off really nicely. So yeah, that's a definite like for this car. Okay guys, another thing I really like about my R8 is that it sounds really good without being too shouty. I've driven the Mark II R8 V10 Performance, and that sounded great, but you soon kind of got bored of its artificial pops and crackles, and there was no way of making it quiet if you wanted to drive around without drawing too much attention. This Mark I V8 sounds good if you work it. It's pretty quiet every other time. It's got a lovely sort of cultured NASCAR almost V8 rumble to it, and apart from on cold start, it's pretty respectable unless you work it, which we can do now. So it likes revs as well, so So yeah, proper American muscle. See if we can drop the window and get a bit more of that. So yeah, I quite like that. Initially I thought it was a bit too quiet, but actually now I've lived with it and heard it with the windows down, I think it's very well judged. Also through tunnels it sounds incredible. I went through a tunnel near Monmouth in the TTRS. It was pretty quiet even though it had a sports exhaust. I went through it in this with the window just down a little bit and it was superb. I felt like I was Cold Trickle in Days of Thunder. Okay, another unexpected bonus of this car is that it's actually rather good on fuel. When I drove it back from Scotland, a nice steady run on the M6, I got 23.8, I think 24 to the gallon, which was indicative of actually what it tends to do as an average, really. I've seen more, I've seen up to 27 on a steady run at slower speeds. The long-term MPG on this car is 21.8, that's over, I don't know if that's my time. Let's have a look, 21.8, long-term average, 37 miles per hour. Average speeds are not particularly fast, over 36 hours of driving and 1,345 miles, is that right? 36 hours, yeah, so that's pretty representative. So over 22 to the gallon in what is pretty much a supercar with a 4.2 litre V8 is, I think, quite good. One of the little things I should point out, this car has got the revised engine. In about 2011, just before the facelift, they had to make this engine Euro 5 compliant. For some reason they gave us a bit more power, it's 430 PS, but it's also got a degree of energy recuperation. I don't really know how it does that because it hasn't got like an electric battery to store energy in like a hybrid would, but it seems to have pretty good effects on the MPG. So yeah, I'm well pleased with the fuel consumption. Okay, my first and my biggest dislike of the Audi R8, and it's something I have to admit I did know before I bought it, and that's why it took me 11 years after it was launched to actually buy one, and that was because there is very little space to put your luggage, which for a car that is best used outside of the UK on long European road trips is a bit of a problem. And it's something that I'm suffering from right now, because instead of taking this car away for a week as of tomorrow, I'm going to have to drive that. That's completely true. We went away for one day and we filled this car up. A week is just not going to happen, so I've been told. We're not even going to try. So unlike a Spider, yes, you do get some storage on the back behind the seats, and there is some lovely custom luggage you can buy to put on there, so you can get a couple of cases there. And the Audi luggage doesn't really go as high as it could do, so you can put some stuff on top of there. And there is a front boot. Again, custom luggage is your friend, because you can get, and I've got it, I'll show you a photo of it now, a leather holdall that fits perfectly across here, sort of side on. You can take all this out if you like living dangerously, and that gives you a bit more depth as well, so it's not too bad. But I just think if you're going walking, or, well, you never get a bike in there, I like to go cycling as well, so that's something I have to compromise on, but I would have compromised on it. Walking with walking boots and clothes, and if the weather's changeable, a number of coats, it's just not going to work even in the UK. So yeah, sorry R8, you're going to have to be parked up for a week. Okay, the next thing that I don't like about my Audi R8 is that the infotainment in here is pretty terrible. This was £100,000, this car, in 2014, only 5 years ago, and the navigation system is actually worse than one you'd get in a Golf in 2008. So the RNS 510 touchscreen knocks this for 6. On the plus side, this is a facelift car, and it means we get the Audi music interface. It's normally in the glove box and say an A3, but here they put it in the bulkhead. On pre-facelift cars, all you got was a multi-CD player there, no way of attaching your phone or your iPod. Now you get this little lead which is really short. It's also got a plug on it that's so stubby you can't actually plug it into an iPhone when you've got a protective case on it. So to get around that, I bought this £2 extension lead, which then means I can have my phone up on the dashboard area where I need it, not to fiddle with it while I'm driving, but to actually use it for navigation purposes. And occasionally it doesn't actually play the music through the AMI with this cable. You have to make sure it's playing, but it's working today. Or was it? Yeah. Okay, the next thing that I don't like about my Audi R8 is that it does not like being driven on full lock. When I bought this car in Scotland, I had to reverse it off the guy's driveway on full lock, and I stalled it 3 times. I just thought there was something wrong with the car, but it just turns out that there's so much wind up in the 4-wheel drive system that you're pretty much dragging the tyres across the ground if you're anywhere near full lock. As I will demonstrate, we're in first gear now. I wouldn't normally film and hold the GoPro, but we're not on a public road here, so I'll just go to the left a bit and then put it full lock. And there's sort of, you can hear the tyres scraping on the ground. You can feel the sort of vibration through the steering column. Let me just pop it into reverse. Can you hear that thump, thump, thump? And that, sir, is just a characteristic of the vehicle. It's perfectly normal. The Mark 1 R8 has got a viscous coupling 4-wheel drive system. For the Mark 2s that came out just a year after this car, they used Haldex, which means that it's not such a permanent 4-wheel drive system, and therefore you don't have any of that wind up on full lock, and it makes it a lot more refined, and therefore it's more like what people would expect when they're blowing 150 grand on a car like this. Okay, something I dislike about my Audi R8 is that the interior does suffer from lots of creaks and rattles. It's probably part and parcel of having an aluminium framed car that's really stiff, that transfer all the road shock to the trim, and the trim just becomes loose after, well, only 5 years and 23,000 miles. Not particularly brilliant. The main culprits are over here. The door seems to rattle a bit. There's a rattle from the rear window when it's hot, which is really annoying because it's right in my earshot. The worst one by far, though, is like a very sort of annoying knocking from the instrument cluster. I've shoved a tissue packet in there to try and reduce it, but not altogether successfully. I'm going to have to strip out the cluster one day and just try and find out what it is and pad it out with some foam. Does it ruin the ownership experience? Well, no, not really, because when you do that, you can't hear it, can you? Okay, another thing I don't like about my Audi R8 is that it's actually quite a wide car. Now that does give it a lot of presence on the road, and it's not too much of an issue when you're driving. Actually, you soon kind of adapt to it. But the big problem for me is that my insurer says it's got to go in a garage, and it really doesn't want to fit in my garage at home. So it very rarely goes home, which is a bit annoying, but I'm moving house, so that's great. And I might have a bigger garage, but unfortunately to buy that house I might have to sell the car, but hopefully not. It's looking like not at the moment. But yeah, I can get it in the garage, but I just have to contort myself a bit too much to get out. And every time I put it in the garage, there's always a massive risk that I'm going to scratch it against the wall. So yeah, not ideal. Now, while we're out here, there's a couple of things I want to talk about that have gone wrong with the car. The first one is the fuel filler flap. Now, I don't know if you've watched any videos by Paul Wallace, Supercars of London, but one of his first videos when he bought his, I don't know, probably about 2014, 2015, was that he was at a petrol station and he couldn't open the fuel flap. And the reason for that was, well, possibly a bit of wear and tear in the solenoid here that releases the flap. But it happened to me. Luckily it was here, because I was fiddling rather than at a petrol station. I couldn't open it, but I worked out you could press the button to open it, lever it open, and then once it was open, oh, wrong one. The tip, again from R8 Talk Forum, was to bend this tab back a little bit so the solenoid didn't have to retract as far to open it. That could have been quite embarrassing at a petrol station. But yeah, luckily it happened here. The other thing was, you've probably seen this in the Project R8 videos, is that the oil pipe that's in the near side rear wheel arch was so badly corroded it could have split at any moment, but that's like par for the course. If I bought it from Audi, possibly they might have changed it, possibly they may not have, and if I was a typical Audi owner, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have been looking underneath it myself. So yeah, it only cost 180 quid and it's quite enjoyable to do. As I said at the beginning of the video, there are a load of Project R8 videos that you can watch, so I'll put the link above now. And thanks as ever for watching this volkswizard video. If you've enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, please comment, please share, please subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one really soon.